want to comment a little bit about our scrimmage on Saturday. Had a really good scrimmage. Really our last, we call it preseason game number 2. Preseason game number 3 for us is going to be our mock game, which will come up here this coming Saturday, but that will be in Spiders, which means it's helmets only and no shoulder pads. But so we won't have any hitting at that, but a lot of game. It's a whole game-like situation. We put our whole team on one sideline, put all the look team guys on the other sideline, and it's all against scouts. And so it's kind of functioned from quarter to quarter, all 4 quarters, halftime, pregame, all that stuff. So that's the next step for us. But preseason game number 2 this past weekend cut a little short because of the lightning, but we got it all in terms of time. We didn't go and split it up and go to the indoor, but got all the offense and defensive work that we wanted. Had to cut a couple special teams out when they got the lightning coming. So, but it was good, very physical. All of the goes were live except for we worked on 2-minute at the end, and that was just thud tempo. But really thought that I liked how our running backs performed. I thought Cole Guest was really did some good things in both throw game and running the football, getting him sharpened up. And Ronnie Walker was another one that really. Matter of fact, there was a couple runs where we wound it back. I thought it was one of the other guys, and so just really encouraged by his continued progress. I think he's just such he does so many great things off the field and in the weight room, and the way he handles himself and the way he works. Just really a guy that I think a lot of. And I just think he's running with a lot of confidence. And Samson continues to do some good things. We kind of rested. We got Stevie some reps, but I know what he can do, so we backed off with him. On the running reps, he just did some protections and things like that. So rested a lot of our receivers in the first group. But thought that really thought Matt Bjornson at tight end made a lot of good plays. Just did some good things for us, and is really playing hard and playing well. Thought that was real positive, and I think that Cam Wilson keeps doing some good things, and Jordan Jakes made some good plays. It was good to see him get some confidence, and so I was encouraged by that. Thought all 3 quarterbacks did some good stuff, and that's what makes it continue to be a challenge. But we're get closer to making that final decision. Not there yet, but at the same time, thought that it was a positive step in the right direction for all 3 of those guys as they keep working and continue to develop and compete, to run the offense. So defensively, thought had a really good finish in the situations that we did. I think our run fits are getting better and better, and that's a big deal for me and how we study those, and really encouraged by Lance Bryant. I tell you what, he's really had a good camp all the way through, but I thought he really shined at some times in both the run game and in pass pressure. He was really he's blossoming into the guy that I thought he could be since he's been here. Redshirted him, out of Texas, and this is his redshirt sophomore year, so that's big for us. And James Head continues to be consistent. I want him to continue to elevate his game. I thought Jerome Johnson was, sometimes you get an older guy like that in one of those a second scrimmage, and he did some good stuff and won. Had continued to have a very good camp, and so need those guys to continue to keep coming along, and I like that work. And I thought, as well as the linebackers, James Head and Thomas Allen, I thought were really solid. And I thought that Raekwon is just, man, he's really loved where he's at, leading the defense, playing with confidence, and just doing some good things. Noah Pierre's a young guy that don't talk about a lot, but he really flashed to me as well. So just and the other guys that you expect to be consistent. But it was just a really good. It was one of those. Sometimes you go through and you have a scrimmage and you see things and still too many penalties. We had the officials here, so they were calling. We had some holding calls, and we had a couple procedures, and then there was a defense jumped offside once that at a critical time. We can't do that. We got to get that fixed. But the holding was probably just continuing to, we want them to call it so we get a realistic view of where we're at, moving our feet, and keeping our hands inside. And so I didn't like that. That wasn't good enough for me. But I just thought when I went back and watched it, I just thought there was a lot of positives, and really like what we're doing red zone offense-wise, and creates a lot of challenges for the defense. And so that was encouraging. And so I just thought it was, I just, like I said, went back and rewatched the film, watched special teams, watched everything that we did, and came away from there feeling like, okay, we're making progress. We got 2 more weeks now after that scrimmage to get ready to play, and feel like that the team is, starting to figure some things out. So obviously now we got to keep, this next week here, we're going to keep working fundamentally for 3 more practices and then start Ball State prep.
Coach Stevie Scott aside, you had a ton of talent in that running backs room, but with the performance of Cole Guest, especially coming off an injury, has that room even surprised you more than you thought it would?
It did, from the perspective of the number of guys that have elevated their game, and I just think that, like you said, you knew what Stevie could do. Keeping him sharp was the challenge, and helping him grow and just not be content with having a great season and just elevating his preparation, which I think he's done. But the guys around him, and I think you get what you wanted, and when that is that his performance elevated the room, and then the competition elevated the individuals within the room, and I think that's what's happened. And so I think we've seen the same thing. I felt like at receiver, I thought that the way Nick Westbrook has elevated his preparation, that pulled Miles Marshall with him. And I think Andre Brown at corner, he's been phenomenal this whole offseason, and in terms of how he has prepared, and he's elevated his play, and he really brought Raheem Lane with him, even though Raheem Lane's a good player. I think he's elevated his play because Andre set the tone for that room, and he followed suit. And then I would say the same thing in specialties. When you look at your specialists, and you don't always think of it like this, but a guy like Hayden Whitehead, who I think he's elevated his game. I love the way he's kicking the football right now, and it stems from his preparation in the offseason. Well, there's another specialist, Nate Snyder, that's elevated his offseason, where we just talked about this as a staff yesterday, and he was pulled up by Hayden's leadership. And so I just think you see those different situations where we've had guys, seniors, upperclassmen in those rooms, or even experienced guys, that by their work ethic, by their high level of expectation, guys in that room have elevated with them. And I would say the same thing with Caleb from Coy. Coy was the one that kind of took him under his wing and pushed him and drove him, and Caleb responded. So those are the kind of things we're seeing, and I've just listed several different guys in several different rooms that encourages me, because that's what you want. That's the leadership you want. That's the effect that you want, and I think we're seeing that in a lot of different spots, and that's encouraging.
With the quarterbacks, obviously you don't have to name a starter, but as you go into this week, is there one guy who you want to get more time with the ones to really just, to really get a strong look at?
Well, here's the reality. So bottom line is that we as a staff, and what we're doing is we will not make an announcement probably, for several more days, but we will start moving that direction. Does that make sense? And so from a rep-based perspective, and so that's just reality. And so, and you sit guys down and you have those conversations. And so, but yeah, there's no question. To me, the bottom line is that we know how many days we have till kickoff. We know what it takes to get our guys ready. And so, formal announcement aside, however that all plays itself out, we're going to get the guys ready that need to be ready to play.
So you said last time that the scrimmage kind of didn't clarify things at all. In terms of reps and how you're going to distribute those, did it give you any more clarity this past time?
I think it did some. Yeah, there's no question. I always try to answer your questions as honest as I feel is appropriate, without saying things that I don't want to say, and I feel like that, that's being honest, and I feel like that, yeah, it did help, and so we had some good discussion since, and that's what you do. My number one responsibility is have this team ready to play our best football, August 31st.
So it probably wouldn't do me any good to ask you a hypothetical. If
No.
you played this Saturday, who would you want to go with? That probably doesn't
You'd just be wasting your breath.
Coach, are you starting to get to the point with your freshman class, guys that will redshirt, the 4-game redshirts, and the guys that'll play every game, or are you still in the process of?
We're still, but we had a conversation. I think I told somebody this, or I said it one time, that after the second scrimmage, I said I would probably have a pretty good feel for guys and where that looks. So we, in yesterday's staff meeting, that was one of our agenda items, was to go through every freshman and talk about that exact topic. Say, okay, is he a 4-game guy? Is he do we think he's a whole year guy? Or is he, and I would say in this group, the majority of them were, hey, we would like to play them for the 4 games, and then you see where they go from there, and so, because, yeah, they're a talented group, but they do have some good players in front of them. And so the balance is okay. We got these guys that we really think are going to be really good players for us, and they are. let's make sure we're wise in how we use them, and don't just burn it. And that's why I love the new rule. I mean, the rule is for this group especially because you got guys that you can get involved in special teams and have the talent to play earlier. But some of them, you're like, hey, if I can keep that extra year, because you go back and, hey, let's think about this guy. If we could have kept him, and I can name several guys on our roster right now that were here before the 4-game rule that they kind of had become a victim of. They really didn't even play 4 games, and if you had that rule, you would have played them more. You wish you wouldn't played them at all because you have another year. That kind of discussion. Those are the things that we bring up and talk about. So I will say that bottom line is that it's a group of guys that we'd like to get as many as possible into the 4-game window, and then see how they perform. And if they're performing at a high level, then we feel like they have to play. And sometimes things happen and it forces you to. That you may play a guy that you didn't expect to have to play. Like I said, after probably the second scrimmage. We weren't thinking Stevie Scott was going to be what he was. There's no question that all changed, in a couple weeks. So bottom line is that those things can happen. But I do think it's a group that we continue to be extremely impressed with, and we just want to make sure we do a great job managing those 4 games.
Is it a testament to improved depth that your freshman class won't be needed as much past 4 games? I mean, is that what you guys are seeing?
I absolutely agree, and that's the way it should be. I mean, we should have when our program is the way it needs to be, and we have the right amount of upperclassmen. I mean, it should be very difficult to come in here as a freshman out of high school and beat out a guy that's been here for 3 or 4 years, if we've recruited to that level. So I do think that it's a testament to that because we played a lot more last year probably than we're going to play this year, but because we had to. And so, but that young depth we had a year ago, at times was tough to compete in this conference against, guys that have been, playing for several years.
How is Reach progressing with the hand injury?
He's coming, and did more the last couple of days than he's done before. So just trying to, and it won't be a long-term thing, but he's progressing for sure.
You look at some of these 4-game situations as more of like a 2-game or 3-game for now in case you might need somebody later?
Yeah, you don't want to burn the first 4 right out of the gate. You really don't. Unless we say, hey, and there was a few guys who said, hey, this guy's going to play, so it really doesn't matter. But you would say, okay, right now it's like because this was the discussion, okay, who do you put in in a PAT field goal situation, or a certain special team, in game 1, and to say, how does that play out versus, you're going to do it the first 4 games. Well, if you're going to do that the first 4 games, you're probably pretty much going to say he's going to play, and so you don't want to get it to where now you've handcuffed yourself and you can't play him the rest of the time if you may need him for sure, just for a situation. So you'd like to get their feet wet with a couple games and then have a couple in your back pocket to be able to utilize late in the season. And there's some guys that we say, hey, they're not ready yet, but he's going to be a last 4-game mindset guy. And so we got a few guys in that category as well.
What did you feel like you got from Coach Womack being here last year?
Yeah, just experienced set of eyes. Really value his thoughts about, when you step in and you watch from a distance and you haven't been here every day. And I wanted him to give his thoughts about, kind of where we are now compared to the last time he watched us. And also just the big picture fits that we have run game wise and the pass game, and just trying to notice the little. I said, just give me your, talk to me about what you see, and because he's done it for so long. And then also, I mean, we talked about the quarterback, and he's been around a long time, and I wanted to watch those guys. I know he's not an offensive coach, but he, when you're a defensive coordinator in the SEC for all those years, I mean, he spent a lot of time watching quarterbacks, and he knows exactly what that looks like and what those guys can do and how you can, it's the guy. I mean, it's the one position that really drives your team. So we talked about that as well. But now he was very, love having him here, and just a very close friend, somebody I trust, and he has a vested interest, obviously, because of my relationship with him, but obviously more so because of his son.
So I saw in the offseason, the NCAA is kind of tightening the targeting rules, penalties. Just your thoughts about the balance between your guys, playing aggressive and avoiding that.
We had the officials here, and we had the videos. We talked it through, and I mean, this part hasn't changed, and that is you got to lower your target. I mean, you just have to. Anything in the head and neck area, those are going to be consistent. But what they're trying to get right is that when if a guy just some targetings have happened in the past and the kid gets ejected because by the letter of the law in the past it was targeting, but there wasn't some malicious intent to try and take a guy's head off, you know, and you can tell the difference. Quarterback slides you onto the last second, you know, it's hard to adjust, but when you go in and just attack the guy, and there's that forcible contact that just, you know, by body demeanor, you send the message that you're just trying to go after this guy, and I think that's what they're trying to get away from, and it still may be a penalty, but it's not going to be ejection from the game. So just be able to have the booth figure that out from the looks, and so yeah, but it's just still comes like we had several things that were kind of even it's close, and you say, hey guys, the bottom line is this: lower your target. That's how we're going in that window. We call it the strike zone. You're going to put all your force there. You keep your head up and you wrap up and you hit through people. It's safe. It's what's good for the game for both sides of the ball. And you know, one big new rule is the kind of taking out the blindside hits, you know, that happen on special teams and even happen on offense where you're peeling back around and guys not looking and it's not targeting, but that would still be called targeting. But still it could be a hit in the chest. But that's if they're not looking. It's the whole thing. If they're trying to get it to where in your 10 to 2 vision, that's where the game is played, and not getting hit either from the side when you can't see it coming, or which would be a cut block, or getting, you know, a guy blasting him when he can't see you, just to take those hits out of the game. And so I think that's probably a bigger change than the past and even the targeting adjustments.
One more if we have.
How difficult did your secondary make the quarterbacks on Saturday?
Well, you know, I tell you what, I think our man coverage keeps getting better, and those windows are really tight, you know, and I think it makes them have to be really accurate, you know, and so and we play a fair amount of that, you know, and we'll mix it up and play some zone as well. But I think those guys they make it hard because we do some good things in the back end. I like our system, but you know, once again, that's, you know, we're getting to the level where we're playing, you know, guys who I think are legit Big Ten caliber DBs and from a speed and technique perspective. And so, you know, that's what they're going against every day. And that's who they got to go against when they're going to make plays, you know, for our own offense. So I think it's, you know, it's helped us. So you feel like you have a good, realistic picture that you're looking at, you know, and we went 1s-on-1s and 2s-on-2s, and we've never really varied from that all the way. So I want to be able to see best versus the best, the guys that are going to be playing on game day. So that I think helps me. Yeah, it may make it harder for them, but it also helps, you know, make the decision for me be able to see it against a legit Big Ten defense.